Hey,
Hey,
today I'm going to be talking about Shrek 2 through the lens of queer theory. At its core, the Shrek series is about deviance, how it happens in society, how non deviant people react to it, and how the deviant people themselves are shaped by it. This is what makes the series, and most DreamWorks movies as a whole, such a great response to the Disney movies which dominated American culture. The fairy tale structure is one which usually uncritically upholds the philosophy of essentialism. The prince is righteous because he is a prince. The fairy is good because she is a fairy. The ogre is evil because he is an ogre. When Katzenberg made an animation studio to spite his previous employers, he took this notion and flipped it on its head. What if the ogre was just misunderstood? What if the charming prince was evil? What if the fairy godmother was even worse? As such, the tension between Shrek and society's reaction to him is at the succulent center of the Shrek series. The society around him subscribes to the essentialist, rigid structure Disney's fairy tales push. Deviance must be othered, and Shrek is deviant. Therefore, we must other him. The first Shrek movie follows his untangling of the internalized self hate he's gathered throughout his life, and through the connections he makes with people who have different perspectives, slowly learning to accept his deviance. It's effectively Shrek's coming out story. Shrek 2, then, is effectively Fiona's coming out story. The conflict in the plot centers around Fiona's father's reaction to her unconventional marriage. Shrek, being used to discrimination based on his deviance, is worried of what his in laws would think, and this culminates in the awkward dinner scene. It's eventually revealed to us, however, that King Harold's ogre phobia isn't genuine. His political power is leveraged against him to uphold a status quo he himself doesn't actually believe in. The man with the most political power is effectively held hostage by a regressive society and the few people who benefit from that regression. Harold himself is even deviant. At the end of the film, he redeems himself by taking a magic bolt for Shrek and being turned back into a frog because he's actually the frog from The Princess and the Frog. Harold isn't the only one who's internalized the prejudice against him, however. Both Shrek and Fiona grew up in a culture that problematized who they are. For most of his life, Shrek thought himself unworthy of love, and we're shown that Fiona's childhood was effectively her being groomed into prioritizing a conventional marriage. After the dinner scene where Shrek antagonizes Harold, he and Fiona have an argument and she lets some of that ogre phobia out. Despite being one herself, society's hatred of ogres has seeped into her. So, what did the critics of the time have to say about it? Well, the vast majority were positive, so it's difficult finding a negative review, but I can give you an attempt at a rundown. Alright, here we go. Negative Shrek 2 reviews incoming. Um, so when I tried looking for negative Shrek 2 reviews on like specific websites, this was the best one I found. It's like some like unknown faith movie thing, and they gave it 0 positives and 10 negatives, um, because it doesn't like preach to God, and also it like has a little bit of cartoon violence, um, but they drink a little bit and you can see butt crack. So I I don't know how much you want this to weigh on your on your perception of Shrek 2, but it's certainly there. It's certainly a review. And then the next best thing I thought was going to Rotten Tomatoes because it's got like an 89 or something, like really high critic score. But that means that there's got to be some negative ones, like this one here from Nuncion Cherry, saying that it has no substance and evaporates quickly. And um, I'd love this person to watch this video that I'm making now, like 9 years later, because I've got some choice words for that. There's certainly substance. Um, there's one saying there's no narrative. I don't I don't get what they're talking about. Like, this isn't Fritz the Cat. There's like a plot to it and stuff. Um, Above average but superfluous. I don't know. Most drab plot, a concept that's so derivative. Most of these are effectively just kind of saying there's no point, no substance. But I mean, like, if you look at this, there's certainly substance. It is a critique of conservatism and essentialism. It is substance distilled down. You can probably tell I don't have a script for this part. I'm just kind of winging it. And I don't know why this would be a negative review. They're saying it's just like Shrek 1 and they gave it a negative. That's a positive in my book. Anyways, uh, yeah, back to the scripted part. Shrek 2 made over $900 million at the box office, and that's without adjusting for inflation, and its critical reception was about on par. With such a big splash, it's bound to have serious repercussions for the animation industry, right? Unfortunately, it seems the main takeaway future projects had was the style without the substance. Modern Disney movies have been doing these little self referential digs ever since, but most of the time they don't seem to be saying anything. Shrek and Shrek 2 were brilliant satires because they got to the core of Disney stories and interrogated the claims they made, not because they just acknowledged that Disney movies existed. It's like when a bad adult animated show breaks the fourth wall to make fun of its own jokes. Like, acknowledging you're not funny doesn't suddenly make you funny, just as acknowledging your cliches and story structure doesn't make them any more novel. So, so why did I even pick Shrek 2? Truth be told, I really just thought it would be kind of funny. I mean, those early DreamWorks movies really shaped my humor massively, and I've always thought they're just kind of fascinating. They represent a very interesting cultural shift, like the Archaeopteryx or the Tiktaalik representing Earth's changing ecology. And as a queer person myself, I just think it's fun to read that sort of thing into movies where it probably wasn't intended. It's sort of post irony. It's both genuine and satirical at the same time. Also, these movies are just really queer. I don't know how else to put it. Uh, Anyways, that's all I have. I left prom early to work on this, so if you don't give me an A, I'm probably gonna cry or something. I don't know.